All right, let's talk about something that connects every single one of us, no matter where we live or what we do. And that's agriculture. We're going to peel back the curtain on this huge, complex world that, literally puts food on our plates. Okay, let's get into it.
I mean, think about it for a second. It seems like a simple question, right? But the answer, well, it's anything but. From a tiny little plot of land feeding one family to a ginormous farm that feeds millions, the real story of our food is the story of agriculture.
So, what are we really talking about? Well, at its most basic, agriculture is just farming. But it's so much more than that. It's what economists call a primary activity. And that's a huge deal because it means it's the very first step, the foundation for pretty much everything we make and use. It's the starting block for the entire global economy. So, to really get a handle on this, here's how we're going to break it down. We'll start with why it's called the first activity. Then, we'll explore the two completely different worlds of farming. After that, we'll look at what it means to farm just to survive versus farming to make a profit. And finally, we'll compare two totally different farms to see all these ideas in the real world. First things first, let's figure out where farming fits into the whole grand scheme of things. Think of any economy as having three big stages. You've got primary activities, which is all about pulling raw stuff right out of the earth, so farming, fishing, mining. Then you have secondary activities, where you take that raw stuff and turn it into something else, like turning wheat into bread. And finally, you have tertiary activities. These are all the services that keep everything moving, like trucking that bread to the store or creating the ads for it. The key takeaway here, without the primary step, without agriculture, steps 2 and 3 just don't happen. Okay, so now that we know where farming fits, let's get into the really interesting part. Because while it's all a primary activity, not all farming is the same, not even close. In fact, you can basically split it into two completely different worlds. And here they are. On one side, you've got subsistence farming. This is all about survival, plain and simple. You're growing just enough to feed your family, probably using simple tools in your own hands. On the other side, commercial farming, and that is a straight-up business. The goal is to sell everything you grow on the market, and that means you need huge areas of land, a ton of money, what we call capital, and a lot of heavy machinery. This one difference, farming to eat versus farming to sell, changes literally everything. So let's dive into that first world for a minute, farming just to survive. Even within subsistence farming, there are different kinds. You've got intensive subsistence, where a farmer works a really small plot of land incredibly hard, putting in tons of labor, usually to grow a main crop like rice. And then there's primitive subsistence, which covers two really ancient methods that humans have been using for thousands of years: shifting cultivation and nomadic herding. Let's talk about shifting cultivation first. You've probably heard of its more dramatic name, slash and burn. And, well, it's pretty much what it sounds like. Farmers will clear a patch of forest by chopping down the trees and burning everything. All those ashes then mix into the soil, giving it a quick boost of nutrients so they can grow crops. And this just shows you the whole cycle perfectly. After a few years, the soil gets tired out. It loses its fertility. So what do? They just abandon that plot and move on to a new one to start the whole process over. It's a system that has worked for centuries, but as you can imagine, it has a pretty big impact on the environment, especially with deforestation. Now, the other primitive method, nomadic herding, kind of flips the script. Here, it's not about a piece of land at all. It's all about the animals. Herdsmen are constantly on the move with their livestock, camels, sheep, yaks, following these ancient, well-defined routes to find grass and water. Their whole life is a journey, always moving with the rhythm of the seasons. Okay, let's jump across that big divide and check out the other world, farming to sell. Commercial farming is a whole different beast. You've got these gigantic commercial grain farms, often just growing one single crop like wheat or corn as far as the eye can see. Then there's mixed farming, which is a bit like hedging your bets. You grow crops, but also raise animals, all on the same land. And then you have plantations. This is agriculture on an industrial scale, dedicated to one single cash crop like tea, coffee, or bananas, usually for export. Yeah, this image really captures the scale of it. A plantation isn't just a farm, it's a massive business enterprise. It takes a huge amount of money for the land and equipment, and a huge workforce, all to produce that one valuable crop for the global market. So we have these two worlds, subsistence and commercial. But to make this crystal clear,
Let's put them side by side. Let's look at a tale of two farms.
I mean, just look at this contrast. It's wild. A typical farm in India might just be a few hectares big. The average US farm, 250 hectares. The farmer in India might be using traditional methods and praying for the monsoon rains. The US farmer is using satellites and massive, high-tech machinery. It's a completely different mindset. One is a peasant farmer working alongside family to survive. The other is a businessman running a massive operation.
And this visual just says it all, doesn't it? On the left, that's the face of small-scale, labor-intensive farming that's deeply tied to family and the land. And on the right, well, we're talking about an entrepreneur who uses technology and capital to get the most out of every single acre. I just want you to let that number sink in. 250 hectares. To put that in perspective, that's about the size of 350 soccer fields. Imagine one single farming business managing all of that. And that's just the average in the US. The scale is just mind-boggling.
So why? Why this push for such incredible scale? It all boils down to one crucial thing: food security. The world's population is getting bigger every single day, and the demand for food is just exploding. This map here shows all the different ways we're trying to tackle that, from better machines to high-yield seeds, and it's all about increasing production so we can feed everyone.
Which leaves us with one final, really important question. Right now, we have these two very different worlds of farming existing at the same time. But as the demand for food keeps climbing, what does the future look like? How do we balance this need for massive production with sustainability and with the lives of millions of small farmers around the globe? That's the huge challenge we all face. Thanks for joining me.